Hey, hey, everybody. Sorry, as I take a drink out of my noisy water bottle. When you pop on, say hello. Hey, April. How are you, my friend? I sure miss you. Turn this just a little bit so it's a little more straight. At least what I think is straight. I don't know. All right. I'm going to wait just a minute because I have people that are requesting. Yay! Coffee break! Woo woo! So, I have all these different inks, and I have all of our new papers, and I have a stamp pad. And hey, Carol, we are going to discuss paper and ink today. And full disclosure, Leah helped me because Leah is a mixed media extraordinaire and she uses a bunch of these inks way more than I do. I tend to stick to my two faves and then that's my comfort zone. And so I stay right there. But today we're going outside of the comfort zone and we're going to do a little bit of experimenting and playing and all of that stuff. So first things first, we're going to talk about inks and paper and Copics. So I'm going to pull a marker out here and explain to you some things. So I've been teaching all of these classes a lot with Stamp and Scrapbook Expo and CKC events and all of these different events. And one of the number one questions I get is about paper. And then the second question I get is about ink. So I'm going to talk to you guys about Copics and paper and ink and why they're different and what you should and should not be doing. So spam the thumbs up button if you have or color with Copic markers. Like if you are a Copic person, give me a thumbs up. If you are a Spectrum Noir person, give me a little smiley face. The little smiley face for Spectrum Noir people. Okay, I see my Copic people here. Hey, hey. All right. So, I see sad faces. I see all kinds of stuff now. All right. So first things first, we're going to discuss Copics. So Copic markers, there is a thing called a Copic sketch and a Copic chow. These are Copic sketch markers. They're the oval ones. They have the names and numbers written on the ends of them. And you will notice if I hold it this direction, there's a gray line by the cap. This cap indicates your brush nib. This brush nib is what you will be doing most of your coloring with. And it's the same with the chow. The other end is your chisel nib. This chisel nib, you really won't be using too much in the beginning of your Copic journey, but as you go on to start coloring backgrounds and all of that sort of stuff, that chisel nib will come into play more. Both markers you can fully refill, and you can, they have the same nibs, so it doesn't matter. The Copic chow markers are round, and they don't have the names written on the cap. So I thought I had one hanging out here, but I just don't have any anymore. The Copic chow markers are, there's 180 of them, and it is what's considered to be the beginner set of Copic markers. The sketch marker, there's 358 of them, and they are considered the professional set. Fully filled with both caps on, these markers weigh about 14.2 grams. So, the reason I say about is because inside of this marker there is a core. The core is essentially cotton wrapped in plastic. When you put ink in here, it condenses the cotton first, and then the cotton will expand as it gets wet. The more times you refill this, the more dense that cotton will get over time. So like Sandy's markers weigh more than my markers because she's had them for like 15 years. So they start out at about 14.2, and then I think Sandy's, some of them go up to like 14.7. So, excuse me, completely arbitrary. as to how much they fill, you will know your markers by how long you've had them and how juicy the nibs get. You will also notice that I said this is a brush nib. This is to be used like a paint brush. So I know a lot of people go like this and they call it flicking. That is not flicking. This is flicking. You're actually coloring from here. And so I'm sorry, somebody was calling me. If you are flicking with a paintbrush, you will get paint all over your walls and stuff. It's actually from here. Okay, so you're not coloring from your wrist at all. You're coloring with just your hand and your fingers. The other thing is if you look at the end of this cap or the end of this nib, you will see on the end of this marker, there is a hole on either side here. These markers are engineered to be used with both caps off. So we live on Earth. There's this cool thing called gravity. If I take this cap off and I start to color, all of the ink in this pen will go to the point of least resistance. That means the ink will come rushing out the end. If I take this cap off, it allows air to get inside of the core of the marker. That equalizes the pressure, and that pressure will then be relieved and all that ink won't go rushing out. So you have control of how much ink is coming out of your marker. So again, these markers are engineered to be used with both caps off. So please, please, please always color with both caps off. The other thing I want to explain to you is inside of here, this is round and the cap itself is oval. So when you put your marker in here, if you twist this cap to pull it off, you're putting so much pressure on the corners of these that eventually your cap will crack. This is an alcohol marker. So when alcohol reaches the air, alcohol and oxygen, the alcohol will evaporate. So if you have a crack in your cap, that is a very bad thing because it will eventually dry out your marker, which will eventually dry out your core, which will eventually make this a piece of trash instead of a viable marker. So just FYI, there's a lot of things that go into your maintenance with these markers. I will also tell you that yes, the caps fit properly on both ends. However, hi Denise. However, you do not want to mix up the caps. Notice that the cap that goes onto my brush nib is marked with a piece of washi tape. I do that purposely because if I set them both down on the counter like this and I don't know which one's which, or if I'm holding them like this and I don't know which one's which, I don't want to continually mix up the caps because if I do, eventually ink from here will become down here. Let me see if I can find a marker. My R29 tends to bleed a lot. So you will see there's ink inside of that cap and then it gets ink on the neck of the pen. So if I continually flip-flop these caps, notice this one is a lot cleaner. So if I keep flip-flopping them, then this ink will get down here and then this cap will get dirty and then this and this I'll need to clean both ends of my marker, possibly need to clean or replace both of my nibs. So please, please, please always keep your caps on one end of your marker. Do not put them interchangeably on both ends. You'll notice my markers are all, I used vinyl to put my name on them. And then all of my caps are marked with washi tape so that I know just by glance what end is which of my marker. Okay, so that's a little Copic 101 for you. So the next thing is ink. A lot of people ask what all of these inks are for and what they're used for and why and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to get into that just a little bit. For the most part, most people or most colorists, I would say a good 90% or better, lean towards Memento Tuxedo Black for their Copic coloring. It is a water-based ink and it's fade resistance and it's a dye ink. And hold on, because my computer just shut off and I need it to be able to see comments if y'all are commenting. Hopefully you guys are commenting. Hello. Hi, Carol. So with this, it's a dye-based ink, meaning that the alcohol from these markers will not smear the ink. So once this ink is stamped, then it is friendly to use with any of your alcohol-based markers. But if you use this dye-based ink with watercolors, say, or oxide inks or anything like that, anything that you're putting a lot of water on, eventually it will start to smear. So you do not want to use Memento ink with anything that is water. Putting water with the dye-based ink is not great. It will totally smear. Which brings me to the Sassy Club ink. The Sassy Club ink is my next go-to besides Memento. I use these pretty much interchangeably. The thing I like about the Sassy Club ink is that Memento is kind of a matte finish black, and this is a very vibrant black. As you can see, it's still a dye-based ink. She calls hers Onyx Black. But this ink is very vibrant. And I know that sounds weird when I'm talking about a black ink, but it works the exact same as Memento. I just think that the finish of this is a brighter black, and so I lean towards it a lot when I'm stamping in black because it's just so pretty. So again, and I wrote all my little notes so I didn't mix anything up. So those are your two main things for Copic or alcohol ink coloring. And when I say Copic coloring, you can say that that is interchangeable with Olo markers or Spectrum Noir markers or whatever markers it is that you're using that are alcohol based, Ohuhu, anything like that. Memento is readily available in most craft stores. And hi, Vicki. And the Sassy Club you can order from thesassyclub.com. In the notes section, you can say that Sweet Sentiment sent you. But honestly, this is one of my absolute favorite inks, and we love the Sassy Club too. So I like supporting small business. Memento is from Tsukuniko. They have a huge line of inks. So it's time tested, tried and true, fantastic inks. So these are my two favorite. Okay. All right. Then we're going to pop into some other inks. A lot of people will use these Gina K amalgam inks. And the cool thing with an amalgam ink is that it's kind of one ink to rule them all. You can use the amalgam ink, and amalgam simply means that it's metallic. It has a metal kind of base to it. And so you can use it for Copic coloring and watercoloring and pencil coloring. This is, to me, not a super vibrant black. You have to stamp it a few times to get it to be as black as I can achieve with my first stamp of Sassy Club ink. But, excuse me, but hey, bestie. But the amalgam ink is really a great ink for if you like just can only buy one ink pad and you need one ink pad for everything. I do advise not to get it super duper wet. So if you're watercoloring, don't like pool watercolor because it will start to blur a little bit, but it won't run like the dye inks will. So that works great. So yes, the amalgam ink is a great one. This is jet black, and with all the Gina K products, you can pretty much buy them like at scrapbook.com or directly from GinaK.com or Simon Says or all of those crazy places that you're used to getting all of that stuff from. Now, the next ink is an archival ink. So this is Distress. It's Ranger product. It's a Tim Holtz thing. This is a permanent waterproof ink. This ink is for your mixed media. It's a solvent based. So anything that is alcohol or water or anything like that, I'm sorry, not alcohol. Alcohol will smear it. So the archival ink, the alcohol will smear. So don't use it with Copics. But anything that is water-based or that you can use that is not easily cleaned up by a solvent. So think of all of your mixed media stuff, texture paste, acrylic paint, all of those types of things you can definitely use with this. You can watercolor with this, of course. This is used in a ton of mixed media stuff. Again, I feel like I have to stamp it a couple of times in order to get a true black. So just know that your Misty is going to be your best friend with these last couple of inks. The next ink is called Versafine. and this is a pigment ink, and this is for fine details. Pigment inks are not safe to use with your alcohol markers. They will corrupt your marker and they will turn the nibs black. So you do not want to use pigment inks with your alcohol markers. It will smear your ink and all kinds of bad things will happen. VersaFine, which this ink pad has been through the ringer, let me tell you, it's cracked. It's been cracked since I got it. The lid falls off. Obviously it was in a bad way, and yet it is still like so juicy. I don't even know. It's like some sort of witchcraft and magic. Excuse me just a second. I need a drink. Okay. So VersaFine is made specifically for fine detail. So this is my go-to ink when I'm stamping like sentiments and stuff like that, because it does do such a wonderful job. It also stays tacky a little bit longer. So if you want to use it for embossing and that sort of thing, you can actually pour your embossing powder on top of this if you do it fairly quickly and emboss right on the top of this with either black or clear or whatever you want. And you will get a nice embossed sentiment as well. But VersaFine is made for fine detail, and you can also watercolor with it. I also like to use it if I'm just using oxide inks. So I can like stamp a sentiment and oxide all over the top of it, then use water with this, and it won't smear the black, but it'll still react with the oxides. So really cool ink, definitely worth having. The last one is VersaFine Clair. I know there's other black inks out there than the 6 that I've mentioned today, but there are, they all kind of fall into the same class. These are the main different ones. This is obviously from the same company. It's Sukaniko, and this is also a pigment ink, but the Clair stays wet longer. And so this one you definitely have to heat set or anything like that. It does, or you know, let it sit to dry or anything like that. It is a little bit more vibrant than the VersaFine, but this one is made specifically for watercoloring. And so for me, it's made for cotton paper. And so it doesn't work as well on like the regular papers if you're doing mixed media stuff, where this does. So, since it's a watercolor ink, that's what it's for. Now you can still use it with your oxide inks and all of that sort of thing. But, for me, this pigment ink, it stays wet way too long. And so I don't use this very often unless I happen to be, doing a embossing with it. So this one I've used this ink pack maybe 2 or 3 times, but it doesn't really do a whole lot in my craft room because I don't do a whole lot of watercoloring. So this one, definitely a must have, definitely for your sentiments and stuff. It works fantastic. Your archival ink you need if you're doing any mixed media stuff. It's really, really great. I usually use it to stamp my dates on stuff because I know it won't go anywhere. Your Gina K amalgam ink is kind of your one and done. Like this you can use for anything. Your Memento ink is your time-tested, tried and true, stamp it and Copic color with it. And your Sassy Club ink is your super vibrant, small business, amazing black ink that you can Copic color with. Takes a little bit longer to dry than the Memento, but it's worth it. I love this ink. So now that we've talked about the markers, and now that we've talked about the ink, we're going to talk about paper, okay? So when I first started Copic coloring, I thought that if I had Copic markers, I know we don't Copic color over embossed images, but a lot of folks ask about which black is best for embossing. If you are going to emboss on your black, I like this one because it stays wet. But I will tell you, my go-to embossing is, I didn't even pull it out. My go-to embossing ink is this Versamark ink. And it is a clear ink pad. So you emboss, you stamp your stamp on this and you stamp it on your paper and it's clear. You pretty much can't see it until you pour the embossing powder on top of it. So if you're going to be doing any embossing, I use this one 99% of the time for doing any embossing on anything. Versamark also has like pens and stuff, but this is from Sukaniko, the same company, and it is archival as well. So it's a permanent ink. It's not going to go anywhere. So, to me, when I watercolor, or not when I watercolor, oh my gosh, when I emboss, this is like, this is it. This is the one and the only. I very rarely use this, and I'll tell you why. Because this stains your stamps. They'll kind of get that yellowy stain on them from this and from the archival ink. They both kind of stain your stamps, where this won't. So you guys know me, I will be using that one. Of course. Thank you for asking questions. So paper. When I first started alcohol marker coloring, I was told because I'm using Copic markers, I have to use Copic paper. That's just how it works. Well, Copic markers are created in Japan, and they are made primarily for anime and manga. And if you look at anime and manga, those art types are bold, bright colors right next to one another, like just butted up next to one another. There's not a lot of blending or soft shading or anything like that. So we're basically using these in a manner other than directed. Their paper they created for that same purpose. The paper is essentially coated, like think like laminated. So what they want is, they want, in those kind of art styles, they want the alcohol to hit the air, be on top of the paper, sit on the top of the paper, and they want the alcohol to evaporate right away. So they're left with this bold, bright pigment sitting right on top of the surface of the paper. And essentially, that's what Copic paper was created for. So then all of the other papers went out, and since Copic was the industry standard, they did the same thing. So your Nina paper, all of that kind of stuff, Nina, Copic, they are essentially papers that are coated around the outside or laminated so that they deflect and they don't let the alcohol soak into the paper. And I got really frustrated coloring because I was getting streaks and white spots and stickiness and tackiness and all of that kind of stuff, and it wasn't working out very well for me. And so Sweet Sentiment, we created this paper because it works differently, and it works for the way we're trying to use these markers. So our paper is not coated around the outside, it's actually coated in the core. And what that does is it allows the alcohol to penetrate the ink and stain the paper. Oh my gosh. It allows the ink to penetrate the paper and stain the paper fibers. So the paper fibers hold on to the pigment. So then when the alcohol evaporates, the pigment is locked into it. So then if you go back in to rehydrate it, the paper fibers again will let go of that pigment so you can manipulate it again. And that way you're not clogging your nibs, you're not getting sticky, tacky stuff, you're not getting all of those weird things that happen when you're coloring with alcohol marker paper. A lot of people color with hammer mill paper, and I'm here to tell you, stop. Please stop, please stop, please stop. You are hurting and ruining your markers. You're tearing up your nibs, it's sucking away all of your ink. It is super bad. Coloring with Copics on hammer mill paper is the equivalent to me to buying artist pan pastels and going out in your driveway and using them like sidewalk chalk. It is just not what you want to do. It is totally bad for your markers and stuff. I know, right? Giggling, Deborah. So please don't do that. So within our line of paper, we have several types. So I'm going to start with, quote unquote, the basic type, and this is our purple label paper. The paper itself is not purple, it's just the label that is purple. Why? Because this tends to be Sandy's favorite paper, because this paper is 80 pound, 216 GSM, so you can actually put it through your printer and you can print your digital images on this paper. The cool thing about that is because of the way this paper is built, that ink from your printer will actually penetrate the paper layers. So you can color with your Copics images that you printed directly. You don't have to heat set them. You don't have to emboss them. You don't have to wait for them to dry. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You can pull this from your printer and just go ahead and start coloring right then. So this paper is very, very cool. It's the caliper of the paper that is thinner so that it can fit through your printer. But having an 80 pound, that's 216 GSM, that means that the grains are really tight. So it's not going to, your ink is not going to bleed everywhere on it. Where like Hammermill, the GSM is like 110 or something for their 80 pound paper. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but I know it's something really low like that. And that means when you touch your pen to the paper, because the paper fibers are so loose, that ink's gonna bleed everywhere. So the tighter the paper fiber, the more control you have of where your ink goes. Okay? So built just like the purple paper is the craft paper. Our craft paper is built in the exact same way as the purple paper. The only difference is this does not have vellum in it and this does have vellum in it. The reason this has vellum in it is so that it can catch the light and refract the light and make your marker coloring look way more vibrant without having to do multiple layers. So you can still one coat color with this. The craft paper, obviously it's brown, so you don't need to put that vellum in it. It's kind of a useless ingredient per se, because just by virtue, this is going to be a softer color because of it being brown and not white. So this is built the same way as this, and you can Copic color on this. So you can actually, this is also 80 pound, 216 GSM, and you can take this and put it in your printer and you can print your images and you can color on this directly. Now I will say the caliper of this paper is slightly thinner than the white paper, and that is because of the vellum that's in it. The vellum makes it so that you can't smush it quite so much. So this is a slightly thinner paper, but again, both fantastic options if you like to print digis or alcohol ink color. You can color your heart out on both of these papers. Sandy was very resistant to coloring on craft paper until she colored on the craft paper, and now it's what she colors on, I would say, most of the time. Hey Sandra, I was just talking about you and your amazing ink. For those of you who don't know, Sandra, I cannot say your last name. Spitalieri? I don't know. Sandy. She owns the Sassy Club, and so her ink is definitely the one you want to use for all of this cool coloring that I'm telling you about. I kind of got it. This is our teal label paper. Now, if you look at the difference between the teal label paper and the purple label paper, you can see the difference in thickness. Like, it is visible even on camera. The teal label paper is 155 pound, and in order to make it so thick, I had to increase the grains. So there's 352 GSM. So that means this is a very tightly woven, very thick paper. 99% of the printers out there, yeah, you should have Italian last name problems for real. 99% of the printers out there will not accept this paper. It is just too thick to print on. But this is my favorite paper. If you are a stamper and you like to physically stamp your images, you are going to use this super bright ink. You're going to use it on here. It's going to penetrate the paper. It's not going to smear or anything. And you're going to have those almost cartoon-like characters being able to print on here. So this paper is also amazing for mixed media. It's amazing for watercolor, as long as you don't pool watercolor. So that means don't set a whole bunch of, don't dunk it in water and then start over, because it's not a cotton paper. And so true watercolor paper is cotton. So if you overwork this paper, it will start to pill. And obviously you don't want to do that, but this is amazing for oxide inks and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to have a little fun. We're going to do a couple of things here with some of these. Yes, awesome for stamping. Sandy, you should go back to the beginning of this and watch when I talk about the ink so you can hear what I said about your ink when you weren't listening. Haha. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a couple of oxide inks. I really, really, really like Faded Jeans. It's one of my favorite inks. I know, seems weird, but it is. And I totally love Seedless Preserves. These are really pretty. But then I want to grab like a yellow color. So I'm going to use Fossilized Amber. So in our shop, we have, these really handy dandy little ink holders. They hold your ink pad so that they don't slide all over your desk. So we're going to utilize those. I am going to grab ink brushes. So I'm going to use Fossilized Amber. Let me find that one. That's mustard seed, scattered straw. There's my Fossilized Amber. And I'm going to use Faded Jeans. That's Tumbled Glass. That's Salty Ocean. Stormy Sky. Faded Jeans. There we go. And then I'm going to grab Seedless Preserves. And that is like a bright pinky color. That is Kitsch Flamingo. Where the heck is it? Here it is. This should be it. Nope, that's Pink Raspberry. Oh, there it is. There's my Seedless Preserves. Okay, then I'm going to grab my water bottle. And then I am going to grab a stencil. Because while we're playing, we may as well make backgrounds, right? Okay, so this is our brand new stencil. This is the Loopy Mandala. And I'm going to pull this out of the little package. And I'm going to throw these aside here. We're going to do the same thing with all three of these pieces of paper so you guys can see. So we're going to start with the purple label paper. Okay. I'm going to take this. And I'm going to start with my Seedless Preserves. And I'm just going to like make randomness. I'm not necessarily going to, perfectly stencil these out because I'm going to use them for backgrounds on cards and stuff. And I don't necessarily want them all to be like the same or perfectly whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Hi, Linda Lou. So oxide inks are made to be water reactive. I'm going to overlap these a little bit. Ooh, I just moved my stencil. There we go. And if I overlap this yellow and blue, I get a cool green color. Oh my gosh, y'all, I love stenciling. It's so much fun. I mean, even just that. Look at how cool that is. Super duper awesome. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spritz this with water so I can show you the reaction. Now, generally what I like to do is I like to let it sit for just a second so that it gives the ink time to react. And then notice how this is curling up. So the reason your paper curls like this is on this side of the paper, but on the top of that coating, All these paper fibers are wet, so they're growing. On the opposite side of the paper fibers are dry, so they're staying that size. So the paper has to have some way to expand, so it starts to curl. So here is your water reaction with the purple label paper. Fun, right? Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab a piece of craft. We're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to start with the yellow. I don't know why, I just am. Going to move to the blue. And then I'm going to move to my pink. Okay. Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. I love them. Okay, so then I'm going to spray this paper. And you'll notice again, it starts to curl. It's because the water's going all the way into that core, and then that core is kind of stopping it. It's keeping it from swelling. So these paper fibers are expanding where the ones underneath are not because they're not wet. So I'm going to take my same paper towel here, or tissue, or whatever. And you can see the ink reaction with this one. A little bit different, doesn't react quite as much, but I think it's just a trick of the eye because this is brown and this is white, so you can definitely see the white through it more. Maybe if I turn them that way, you can see it a little bit better. Okay? All right. Who's ready for teal label paper? Anybody ready? I always think I have more than one sheet because it's so thick. Am I boring you guys? Or are you just so enthralled that you're not talking? I like to know why things work as opposed to just, oh, they work. So that's why I go through and explain things like this. You're mesmerized? Coloring while watching. Oh, April, I'm so glad you're coloring. I need some brushes, Sandy. Cough, cough, cough. And then I'm gonna go back over this with some of the blue. I don't know why, I just did. I just wanted to, man. Okay. Now this one, we're gonna spritz. In the exact same way. Oh, Sandy, what are you coloring? I want to color. but I thought it was important because I've had so many questions about the paper lately. I thought it was important to talk about it. Okay. Look at the reaction of this one. See how they kind of bleed out more? It's just so cool. Very different than this one. Really fun. So, so 3 different papers, 3 different backgrounds. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of, this is the purple label paper. Put this here. I guess I don't need those anymore. Move that over there. Okay, so this is purple label paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a leaf. And this is from our new Playful Plumeria stamp set. I'm just grabbing a leaf, and then I'm grabbing my block. This is my block from the Sassy Club. I've wanted one of these for such a long time, and my bestie got it for me. So I'm going to start. Okay. So I'm going to start with the memento. And I forgot to rough up my stamp first, so we're just going to see how it goes. Memento! And I'm going to clean it off. And I'm going to write memento. Then I'm going to use my Sassy Club ink. Now, this is what I mean when I say, look at how much more vibrant it is. Do you see how bright that black is compared to the memento? I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but it is so much more vibrant and bright of a black color. I love it. Okay, so we're going to write Sassy. The next one is going to be VersaFine. I love it. I think that the Sassy Club ink, the best way that I've ever described it is, are you ready? Sandy, are you ready for this? It's like VersaFine and Memento had a love child. Yeah, you need a break from die cutting. How do you like that? Okay, so now we're going to stamp the Claire. Then we're going to stamp the Gina K. And I don't know if you guys know, but these hold 4 of these little ink pads. So just in case you're ever wondering, you can put 4 of the small distress inks or anything like that in there. Okay. And then the last one I'm going to use is the archival ink. And if you clean it off right away, then it won't stain your stamp. All right. So here we go. I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna put this here. Put this here. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a Copic marker, and I'm gonna take a very light one, and I'm gonna take one that I have a spare of, so because it's kind of being sacrificed. So this is my BV quadruple zero. So we know with Memento that I can color over the top of the Memento and nothing will happen. We know with the Sassy Club, I can color over the top of the Sassy Club and nothing will happen. Okay? The VersaFine, see how it turns it all black? I probably need to, there you go. Can you see that? The Claire, same thing, turns it all black and smears. Gina K, you can color with it just fine. And the Archival, it kind of smears, makes it hazy. If I were to get it much more wet than that, it would continue to smear. Okay, so we can see this is not good with alcohol markers. So, no Copic. No Copic. But these three you can use with Copic. Okay? All right. So now that we have that done, what we're going to do is we're going to spritz them with water so we can see if we can use them with the alcohol ink. So, or I mean with the oxide inks. So, let me get a smaller brush. There we go. So you'll see when I start to ink blend that, it's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. And that's okay. But the thing I wanted to show you is see how faded this one gets and see how faded this one gets. They're different, they're both different inks, but you can see that the oxide ink goes over the top of this one. And so it fades it out. When it goes over the top of these ones, they don't fade out. And then with the Memento, it fades out a lot. And I'm not really sure why, because I am really bad at science. So now we're going to put some water over the top of all these. Poor Sandy, are you stressing because I'm testing your ink out? All right, so you see it's interacting. So if I take the Memento, it stays there. It gets a little fuzzy. If I take the Sassy Club, it stays put. It doesn't go anywhere. If I take the Claire, it starts to pill the paper. VersaFine seems to work okay, but it's starting to pill the paper. Gina K. And the Archival ink. So honestly, the best one on holding the water is the Sassy Club ink. And the Memento spreads a little bit, but it's okay. VersaFine does fairly well, but the Claire and all of those just kind of, they pill the paper. Hi, Lori. So that is also a good test. Now, the other test I like to show is I like to color with pencils. All of our papers are good with pencils. I like to use the Faber-Castell Polychromos. These are an oil-based pencil. They are not a wax base. So if I color over these, I like to see which ones will do the best so that I can see the ink through them. So if I hold this up, so the Gina K ink, you can see it holds really well. That's the amalgam ink. It has a metal alloy in it, and so it's kind of made for that. So it repels where the pencil is. This is that archival ink. Does fairly well. Pretty good, pretty good. The VersaFine Clair, it does all right. You can see that the ink itself is kind of purple. So, you know, this is the Clair. That's the VersaFine. This is the VersaFine Clair. Again, it's all right. Not my most favorite, but it'll do. The Memento, again, it's okay. And then that Sassy Club ink is still super vibrant. So, I'm going to tell you that the winner of these is Sassy Club ink. That's what I'm going to tell you. But as far as our paper goes, you can see on the back of all of these, you can see where you've colored. If I were to take this Copic marker and I were to brush a bunch of color on here, this is the purple label paper. Notice that you can already start to see that red come through. Again, the more I color with this, the more you will see. Okay? If I take the teal label paper and I color with this red, there's no soak through. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty amazing. So, I'm going to tell you that my favorite ink is going to be Sassy Club ink because it is the bomb diggity as of right now. Let me zoom out. And that my favorite paper is our teal label paper, only because I'm stamping, not because I am printing. If I was printing, I would 100% for sure be liking that purple paper or this craft paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp this new Plumeria flower, and we're going to play just a tiny bit with it until I run out of time. But I'm going to set up I hope that this is very informative for you guys. I hope that you like this because now you can see what the different papers are for and why they work and how they work and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to, if I can get that to not stick to my hand, I'm going to stamp this with my Sassy Club ink. Everybody still out there? Y'all still awake out there? And I'm going to use my press pop. Not a lot of pressure. I am just moving that around. Look at how vibrant that is. These are brand new stamps. They've never been stamped before. So, I mean, that's got to tell you how awesome. Probably want to put that part down here. Okay. Oh. All right. So this is Teal Label, Craft, and Let me go grab another piece of purple label. Man, my desk blew up. Anybody else have that problem when they craft? All right. So we're going to make 3 flowers. Goodness gracious. And I'm just going to set this aside. Use that. Don't need those. Put that over there. Okay. So I'm going to show you the easy way to make flowers so that you can see that you can make them fairly quickly. And a plumeria flower is white around the outside and yellow in the middle. There are several types of plumeria flowers that are different, but the ones you see most often. Okay, this is Flower 101, the easy way. So then I have my dies here. And my handy dandy little die cutting machine. There it is. And we're gonna cut out this cutesy little die, or this cutesy little flower. No, I can't do it. I need to tape it down. I'm afraid. There we go. Archie was saving me from high school track runners. Okay, so there's my first one. Toss that. We're gonna do our teal label one. And we're gonna do our purple label one. That's not gonna fit. There we go. I love that all of our dies cut 1/8 of an inch border. So it's easy to line them up because you can just barely see the black lines. So you don't have to guess. All right, there's purple label. So I can put that die away, and then now I need to grab the petals. Petal, petal, petal. Put that die in there. All right, so put this one down. I knew that was wrong. I don't even know why I tried it, but whatever. You guys, frog tape is the best tape ever. That's what I'm using, is frog tape. Sandy and I figured out that you can buy it at Walmart, so go figure. We had to run to Walmart for something or other. I can't even remember. And we were like, whoa, there's frog tape. Sorry I'm doing all the die cutting like now, but I thought you guys would like to see like the whole scenario. So I mean, it's Friday afternoon. Although nobody's talking, it makes me anxious when nobody talks. So if you're just joining us and you're wondering what the heck I'm doing, I'm showing the similarities and differences between our 3 kinds of paper. Hey, Allison, I was just talking about you the other day. Were your ears burning? Talking about the similarities and differences between our 3 papers, the teal label, the purple label, and the craft paper. And so if you would like to purchase any of them, you can for sure go to sweetsentiment.us and purchase. We have both 8.5 by 11 and A2 size paper packs. And we also have them at the shows. For the most part, they do sell out quick. But we bring them to the shows. Your ears have been burning. And we are doing a test. I did a test of all the inks on the papers and what they did. I don't know why I just tried to put that one on that flower. I knew it was wrong. We did a test of different inks on the papers and what they do and how they react. And now we're gonna make a flower on each of the papers so you can see what they do and how that reacts. And then that's gonna be it for the day. Tomorrow I will be live again and we're gonna be doing some coloring. I'm not sure what yet, but some coloring, because you guys know me and you know I like to color, so that's the thing. And, okay, so I'm going to toss that, put this away. We're going to make us some flowers. I know, it's fun, huh? Sandy and I both have them, and then her mom has one, and at the top it says, Linda's watching. So I'm going to pop these back in here on the magnets. and set that over there, out of my way. Move some stuff. This was our paper testing. And if you didn't see, Allison, you're going to want to see this part. I don't know where it is though. Our new teal label paper, I used red ink and you can't even see, it doesn't ghost through. This is our teal label paper. So awesome. Okay. So now we are going to make us some flowers. What I like to do when I'm making these plumerias, I'm going to start with the purple label paper because this is the one that I think that you will generally have. When I make this flower, I like to cut in, not to the center, but almost, so that I have a little more play with the petals of these. I know. It's pretty stinking awesome, huh? We have 8.5 by 11 and A2. The only thing is it doesn't fit in your printer. So if you want to print digis, which I know you do, you're going to want the purple label paper or the craft paper because you can Copic color on our craft paper. Okay, so I take those and I do that. Now, what I like to do is grab a handy dandy Sharpie and a mouse pad. Plumerias they fold out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by pushing the center of this in, and then I'm gonna come to the back and where's my spray? There it is. Put a little spritz of water just to break up or open up those paper fibers. And then I'm going to curl them. Now, once I've curled them, I've kind of ruined where I dented it. So I'm going to go back in and dent it in the middle again. Same thing with these. I'm just going to curl them. And I'm going to turn on my glue gun because that glue sets faster for putting these together. I have all the paper stylus, but just because a lot of people don't have them, I like to use what's around me so people can see that you can use whatever is around you to make pretty, pretty, pretty flowers. So gonna spritz those a little bit. I'm gonna use my Sharpie this time, just because I'm getting ink on my hand and y'all know me and you know I don't like that. Again, I'm gonna cut this on those lines. Now, this is the teal label paper that I'm working with now, so it's a lot thicker. Okay, so again, we're going to spritz. I'm going to push down in the center. I'm going to break up these paper fibers. And then I'm going to curl these. I know, I try. I have my moments, Allison. Allie, that card I got from the card swap this time, holy crikeys, that lady, she should get a merit badge for going above and beyond. It was like a whole album that she made. For those of you who don't know, Allie does card swaps periodically, and out of the blue. And we did a card swap. I think it was like just for no reason. It was like a just because card swap. And when I have time, I like to participate, especially since she's always looking for people who are willing to send internationally. And I don't mind throwing some extra stamps on a card to send it to somebody in a far off land. So I did the card swap, and I got this card from this lady in Canada. And I don't remember her name. If you do, Allie, you can shout her out. And she sent me this card, and she was like, I just love doing this, so I like to go above and beyond and make albums. And so she made me like this little album, and she must know I'm remedial, because she put like little notes inside of the album that was like, put a picture here, put a picture here. And I was like, oh, I love her. It even has instructions. But it's really pretty. So shout out to her. If somebody really needs a picking up, send them her as their card swap partner. You should do a new one that's like called, you know, In Bloom or something, so everybody could do flowers. I think that would be a fun one. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my purple label paper, because we're doing it purple, then teal, then craft. Okay, so I'm going to take, and I'm going to put a spot of glue in the center. You guys, these flowers are so easy to put together. 1, 2, oh, it might have been. All I know is the note that she sent was super sweet, and the card was like above and beyond. I felt like I sent a very inadequate card. You can put more petals or less petals. Technically, Plumerias only have 5 petals, but I like to make it 3D like this. So it just makes me happy. Because it's so pretty. Look at how pretty. It's so simple. Okay, now we're going to go to teal label. I like that you only have to send 1 card for your swap, because, girl, you know we ain't got the time for, like, they do card swaps at the expo, and you have to do 21 cards. I really don't have time for 21 cards. I'm just trying not to burn my finger off. That's the only reason I use the scissors. I prefer keeping my finger unsinged. Now I'm stuck to it. Okay. So then just a little bit of shaping. Do you guys see how fast these flowers go together? I mean, this Plumeria, how stinking cute is that? And we're going to make them even cuter when we finish them off, because you guys know I can't make flowers without my Crazy Creations glitter, right? I always wanted it to be super simple for everyone. One card to make, one card to get in your mailbox. Yep, I love it. That's why the color decks swap that I do is 2, because they're small, so 2. And then the ATC swap that we do is 9, but that's because that's what fits on one sheet of those trading card album pages. So you can have one card for each spot on each swap. And with ATCs, they're very small, so I feel like 9 isn't a ton. Oh my gosh, you guys, I think this craft one is my favorite. Look at that. So much fun. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my glitter. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I got one more thing I gotta grab. There they are. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's apparently dinner time for the dog. Do you hear him? These are my little prills, and I'm gonna put them in the center when I'm done with the glitter. All right, so you guys know I have my Pac-Man sponge. You have to do that or it doesn't work right. Cut a little wedge off of it. I take my super amazing Barely Art glue with our cool little glue toppers. Our glue toppers come with this topper for your glue. And it's a precision tip. It's the same size as the one that comes with the Barely Art glue, but this is longer so you can see where you're putting the glue, and it makes it so much easier. So just FYI, it comes with it. It's not extra, whatevs. Okay, so we're gonna start with purple label paper. We're going to kiss the edges with the glue. And then we're going to do my favorite part. We're going to just dunk this bad boy in there. Okay. Then, because I don't like to have icky fingers, I pick them up. Look at how pretty. Okay. Now we're going to do this one. This is the teal label paper. Probably should have added a little bit more glue to my sponge, but that's okay. This one will be lightly frosted. Ooh, ah. Okay, I do need to this side. Add a little bit more glue here. And we're gonna do the craft paper. The cool thing about the Barely Art glue is once it dries, you can't see where the glue is at. So when you do stuff like this, you don't have like a bunch of shiny glue sticking out and looking unprofessional and funky. Funky. And dunk that one in there. Now you're gonna really see the frosting on this one because it's craft paper and this glitter is white. So it looks really frosty. Okay, put my spoon back in here. Now, if you want, I have what's called a glitter shitter or a glitter duster, and you can spray glitter on these as well. I get these from Tall Mouse. But then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab, sorry, I had to get the glue off my fingers. I'm just gonna grab a piece of paper because this tends to be a little bit messy, this part. And then where did I set? Here they are. So I'm gonna shake these because sometimes they stick together. I'm gonna open them up. I'm gonna put a spot of hot glue inside. And then I'm gonna like over cover because I want them to really get on there. All right. So then I let those sit for a second. I usually kind of tap them a little bit so that all of those stick onto the hot glue, or all that can stick is going to stick. I wipe off my glue and put my little glue bear back in there. I'm gonna try not to spill those. Again, we went over all the inks and all of our new papers. And I'm gonna grab this so I can set each flower on its own paper so you can see how they come out and see what it is that you like best. And let's pour these back in here ever so carefully. They're gonna go everywhere, just so you know. Oh, look, isn't that cute? So cute. Sandy did an awesome job on this flower. Okay, and then the reason I did it on this paper is so that I can go like this. I should have used a candy cup, but I didn't think about it. And pour those right back in there. There's a few escapees, but that's okay. All right, so here we go. Our purple label is this one. Our craft, of course, is this one. You can soften this up by kind of, if you don't want a line. And our teal label paper is this one. So you can see what it is, what you like about each different paper, and what it is, you're welcome, what it is that you're looking for in a paper. We tried to create a paper for everyone so that you guys could pick what it is that you like and what it is that you do most. Like I said, if you print digital images and like to color digital images, and the purple paper is for you. If you're a stamper and you only stamp, then the teal is for you. The A2 size is $5.99. The 8.5 by 11 size is $14.99, and that is for 20 sheets each. So again, yeah, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you liked this. I know it hopefully will answer a lot of questions for you guys about what the papers do, why they're different, how they react, all of that cool stuff. And yeah, that's everything. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm going to try to get back to work with the little bit of time I have left. and I have lots of packages to print and things to do to get ready for our show in Chantilly, Virginia. So if you're in the area, sign up for the classes. You'll get to use the purple label paper and come to the booth. Sandy has 2 brand new make and takes, one on Friday and one on Saturday, that you're not going to want to miss. And then there's also another brand new make and take at the Mega Make and Take, which is on Thursday night. So all fun things that you guys won't want to miss. Don't forget, our releases are the second Saturday of every month. So we just had a release last Saturday, and if you haven't checked it out, you're totally going to want to, because otters and lemurs and plumerias and Mother's Day sentiments, just a super awesome release. And you guys know that this is April, so next month is Mermaid, my favorite month. So you guys will get to see another cool mermaid release. So you don't want to miss out. Please join our email list. Just go to the website and put your information on there, and you will be on top of when everything releases. So anyways, I hope you guys, Mega Meet is your favorite. I don't think I'm going to make it this year. Have fun at the shows. Aw, I'm sorry, Deborah. Anyways, I will see you guys all tomorrow. Toodles!